Growing up on Loudon Street was, I guess at the time, I was didn't realize it, but it was sort of like in seventh heaven. It was great to grow up on that street because all the neighbors were great neighbors. They all looked out for us. We all played together on Loudon Street. The white kids, the black kids, we just all got along and had a good time. We was a segregated community, but we played together, but we just went to separate schools and separate churches. I was fortunate enough to grow up with grandparents on both sides, which was fortunate because that's where I guess I got a lot of my wisdom and love of life from. My grandmother was named Mary, and my grandpa was named William, so I said I got my education from William and Mary. My grandmother sold the Afro-American newspaper in Leesburg, and my grandfather would, on Saturdays, he would take the extra papers and go up the street and stand on a corner, and he would sell to people that wanted the Afro-American newspaper. So I was walking up the street with him one day, and I can't remember exactly how old I was, and this lady approached him about doing some work because he was a carpenter here in Leesburg. But when he approached her, she called him Will because everybody knew him as Will Roberts. And he said, Will, and he just immediately took off his hat and he dropped his head like this and said, yes, ma'am. And the whole time the lady was talking to her, he kept his head down and just didn't hardly make eye contact. So it befuddled me to what it was. So when I got back home, I asked my mother, I said, Granddaddy was uptown, and I went with him to sell the papers, and he was talking to this lady, and he took his hat off and held his head down while she was talking to her. And I said, why did he do that? And she looked at me and she said, he walking with his head down so that one day you may be able to walk with your head up. So that has always stuck with me. So I always walked around with pride just because of that one little incident. My favorite teacher was he taught chemistry and he coached basketball, was Mr. George Barrett. And sometimes we'd go in his class for science or chemistry or biology or whatever it was, and we'd never crack a book, and he would just tell us about life. As an adult and growing up and getting married, some of the very things that he said happened. And I said, well, I knew these were going to happen. My wife said, how did you know that? I said, because Mr. Barrett said it was going to happen. Graduated from high school in June, and in July of the 27th day of July, 56, I was sworn into the United States Navy and went off to Bainbridge, Maryland. And in September, I left school and went to Norfolk and got on the Douglas H. Fox, which DD was a destroyer, DD 779, and that's where I spent the next 3 years and 9 months on the destroyer until I got out of the Navy. I remember one year that I went to Boy Scout camp in Goshen, which is down in the lower part of Virginia, and I carried 14 scouts. And all of them were non-swimmers. They'd never been able to swim because there was no swimming pools for blacks in Loudoun County, none whatsoever. And I carried them to Goshen, 14 non-swimmers. At the end of the week when we came back, I had 14 swimmers. All 14 of them learned how to swim in that 1 week. I almost grew gills myself because I was in the water with them every day, early in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. I didn't want to be in the water, but every last one of those boys learned how to swim. And right today, a lot of them will pass me, Mr. Roberts, I still know how to swim. Oh, when I was young, I never imagined that a black man would be the president of the United States. I felt great because I was in Arizona in the wintertime when he was sworn in, and I called my brothers back here in Virginia, and I told them, I said, when he's sworn in, I want you all to stand up, and I did too. Stewardship, in my opinion, comes from taking care of what you've been asked to take care of. My hope for the future is that people can learn how to respect one another. That's one thing. Respect can go a long ways, regardless of your race, creed, color, whatever. You just respect that person, because I think a lot of times we always think that we are right. I have a T-shirt that I bring back from South Dakota every year when I go to the reservation to work, and it's in Lakota language. I can't remember, I haven't learned the phrase yet, but it says, in God's eyes we are all one. I would like for my children to say, and grandchildren to say about me, that he was honest, and he tried, and he was a person that never turned his back on anybody. That's just the way I like to be remembered.